Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Intuitive Body and Soul. I am your host, Joan Turner, and this is your co-host, Deborah Carpenter.
Hello.
Name right? And we are like super excited because we're always super excited because we always have the very best people on. We really magnetize good folks to ourselves.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So today we have author, podcaster, film director, Nomar Slevik. Okay, and I actually met him a couple of times and saw a couple of his movies, ones that he's directed, so on and so forth. And he's recently coordinated his efforts with Mike Stevens. Now, Mike Stevens, you might recognize, we've had him on. This has got to be the third or maybe even fourth time. He's like one of my favorite people. And so we've asked him to come back again because he deals with
Paranormal,
UFOs. So, and he's been doing this for a long time, and we're really kind of liking him because, you know, one time I said to him, as a experiencer, because that's what he calls himself, an experiencer, how do you know, they have support groups, how do you know a person really had a UFO experience or encounter? And he looked at me and he said, well, that's not the point. He said the person has had some sort of experience and it's affected them, affected their life. He said it's people first, people before proof type of thing. So, I mean, he had me at hello, good stuff, right? So everyone, help us in welcoming Nomar Slevik and Mike Stevens, and we are going to bring them into the room. We hope. We've been having a few.
There's Mike.
And Nomar is on his way. Hello, Mike.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We are so happy that you're here. And we had trouble getting you on. Now we have. Oh, wait, there he is. Hello. Hello, guys. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show. We are so excited to have you here. So we were saying that we were talking about Nomar first and saying that you are a podcaster, an author, a film director. Okay, so how did you get into all that? How old were you? 2? What did you do? When did you decide that this was your thing?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. And second, I guess I got into all of this, strange phenomenon stuff at a really young age. It was actually right around 4 years old, which is similar to when Mike had one of his first experiences.
Oh, yeah,
but I saw something weird in the sky when I was 4, and that just kind of snowballed into eventually collecting people's stories and then wanting to tell people stories and share them.
Why? Why tell people stories? Why share them? That always amazes me. It's like sometimes, especially when you're talking about unidentified flying objects, paranormal, ghost stories, some people think you're crazy. So it's like, you're afraid to tell certain people. There's certain parts of my family who don't know what I do for a living yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you said that.
Don't even talk to me.
That might be another reason, but no, I'm kidding.
Keep him at arm's length.
I'm glad you said that, though, because that's a big reason why I want to tell people's story, especially for me living in Maine. The people of Maine are very they're reserved, and they don't want to come across as crazy or something like that. So in order for me to hear their story to begin with, I approach them with kindness and an open mind. Now, it's a skeptical open mind, but it's open and kind nonetheless. And by sharing their story, other people who are afraid to talk might be more willing to talk if they read more stories about people who are like them. So that's really kind of like the overarching goal of it all, is to
especially
get people
in the area.
comfortable.
Yeah. Mike, where do you come from? You're in New Hampshire or Maine?
I'm in New Hampshire.
You're in New Hampshire. So I think it's kind of important because you're talking to people who have had experiences in the area. It's not like a faraway place that, oh, it happens over there, it doesn't happen to us, it doesn't happen to real people. So that's
Right.
very cool. That's a cool thing. So
So Noma, you're an experiencer also, right?
I am, although in my opinion, that term directed towards me might be a little strong. I've only seen things in the sky. When I think of an experiencer, I think of somebody who has maybe had some potential or actual abduction experiences, or maybe some experience with an actual being of some sort. For me, I've just seen some things in the sky. It's happened a lot, don't get me wrong, but yeah.
so
that's pretty much it.
Mike is an actual experiencer, yes?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So how did you guys meet? How did you connect? Because Mike, you run something called Granite Skies, and that's New Hampshire based?
Yeah, as far as where we hold the meetings and stuff, and a lot of the people are from New Hampshire, but we do deal with people from Maine, Massachusetts, and it is
Surrounding areas.
this general area. And that now with the aid of technology, when I get it to work for me,
I was just going to
you
say,
can
well, we
reach
can get it
people
to work.
across the country.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, he like freezes. Okay. So how did the two of you connect? Because Mike, you've been doing what you do for how many years? A long time. Mike, it's frozen.
No, he might be he might be frozen again.
Well, maybe Noma can answer the
Maybe
question.
Nomar can answer. Now,
Well, I know Mike's been doing it for quite a long time, and the way he and I hooked up was by me doing reaching out to him about doing some sort of presentation at the KRI Center.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how many presentations have you done there? Because I have actually been to 2 of them.
Yeah, maybe 4, something like that.
I don't believe that.
I missed 4.
You missed 4. And I actually have your books as well, which I did read. We lost Mike, but I'm hoping that he will come back. We've been having trouble with his feed, but he'll come back. We hope.
Did he get abducted?
Little humor. Nice.
Oh my goodness, I hope not.
So you met him through the KRI Center. Okay, so the KRI
That's
Center,
right.
for people who don't know, is the Kit Research Institute that actually is not there anymore. It's since closed down, I believe, correct?
That's
Okay.
right.
So
That's
you
right.
met him there. So did you contact him and say, hey, I have some presentations I'd like to share? Or did he contact you? How'd that go?
I think we connected on Facebook, and if you're in the New England UFO sphere, if you will, of other researchers and experiencers, you're going to run into Mike Stevens. So I actually heard his name quite a bit before talking to him, and we friended each other, on Facebook at some point, and began talking again about doing a presentation. And then after he and I got to know each other, this was probably a year into the relationship, I started hearing more about his encounters, because if anybody knows Mike, he's not one that's always talking about himself and talking about all of his encounters.
Very
It's
humble.
about helping.
Very
Yeah. It's about helping other people. So once I started to learn that he had his own stories, it was very fascinating. And, I heard a few things here and there that he told me, that some other people told me. And I also knew he was really involved with the Exeter UFO Festival. But it wasn't until a talk, I think it was 2 years ago now, and he was talking about his story, and he finally it was just a phone call, and he kind of ran down pretty much the whole thing, but a summarized version of the whole thing, and inquired about potentially writing about it. So that was like 2 years ago, and I had a lot of stuff going on at the time, and couldn't
Hey,
really.
you're a busy guy. I had to harass you to get you on here. But I said to Deb, I don't know if you remember, I said, I've talked to him twice. I said, but I will get him. You will wait. See, I will get him. So you're a busy guy.
I appreciate your persistence. So I had a lot
Not
of stuff going on.
do. So, the two of you actually have a friendship. You've created a friendship out of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah,
how
absolutely, great guy.
you have been doing this? I mean, you've been interested in it from a very young age. When did you actually start producing podcasts and writing things and all that good stuff? When did this become your life's work? And how did you
That's
know?
well, I honestly, I don't know if I've ever known. Like, I don't even know if I know now. It always seems like it's a mistake, or I'm waiting for the other foot to drop, or the other foot is always dropping. Um, because it's so volatile. I'm running around without insurance, and I'm trying to make money, and this is a hard thing to make money at when you're not trying to exploit. Because I think it's a lot easier to make money if you're exploiting, and that's not what I'm about. However, in order to tell people stories and to do it on a caliber that it reaches the most amount of people possible, you do in fact have to make some money somewhere. So that's where
Right.
writing a book or doing a documentary is trying to generate some income. Now, the majority of that income does get flipped into whatever the next project is. But
Sure.
some of it, I do need to live and eat and,
What do you
just
mean?
normal things. But
I
it's
have a
certainly
roof over
not.
your head.
Yeah.
Are
And
you, what is your next project?
it's actually a book of fiction is my next project.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm really
So
excited
that
about that.
reminds me of the $6 stories. I was looking on your Facebook page, and when I asked you what $6 stories were, you were like, oh, like, okay, she's going to bring this up. But you used to write personalized horror stories for $6. Yeah?
That's right.
I
Yeah.
love it. So
Yeah, it was mostly friends and family that would hit me up for the stories, to kind of get me started, to see if I could maybe make a run at something like this. And it really didn't pan out. Other than I wrote, 20 stories or something for the actual like $6, like for that little project.
well, I think
Which was
that's good
fun.
because it gave you practice. It was a precursor. Yeah. Same thing. I teach art. I'm an artist in my other life and stuff. And I found that when I started teaching art, I became a better artist myself. Doing energy work and teaching that, I became better at it myself. So these are all steps that you had to take. It makes you as good as you are. Okay, so what about, another thing I saw on your Facebook page, it says, fresh to death. What the heck is that?
I guess for lack of a better explanation, it's a hip hop term. So if something is so if something is fresh, that means it's good, it's cool.
We're not in that generation.
Fresh to death. Okay, so I still don't know what that means, but okay.
It just means something. It just means something's really cool.
Just cool. Fresh to
Fresh
death.
to death?
Deaf, DEF.
Oh, deaf.
see how stories get circulated here? Okay, so you're a researcher, you're an investigator, and you write about strange phenomenon. So you're not just UFO or encounters, you write about other things as well, yes?
I do. My main focus is certainly on the extraterrestrial side, but if somebody comes at me with, a strange ghost story or, some sort of cryptid or black-eyed kids or something, I definitely want to know it, and I may or may not share it, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've written about dogmen, I've written about ghosts, there's a bunch of stuff I've written about.
Whoa, go back.
We've heard the expression black-eyed kids, but Deb is like, okay, what is it? So now you have to explain to us what it is.
I know what it is, but I want
Sure.
him to say it.
Oh,
Sure. Well, black-eyed kids, first of all, I want to say, like, for a while, I thought, like, the UFO phenomenon was maybe, like, the last frontier of the paranormal. There's just so much vagueness around it, but there's also so many theories, and some people are so strong in their theory being correct. And so it does kind of define it in certain ways, or depending on who you talk to. But black-eyed children, in my opinion, are are the final frontier of the paranormal. It's nobody knows what they are. Nobody knows if it's just an urban lore or if it's something that's actually happening. Anytime you hear of a story, it's usually a friend of a friend of a friend's story, except that first one by Brian Bethel that happened back in 95 or 96 or something. And he had a firsthand encounter and shared that firsthand encounter and has stuck to his story ever since, to the point where he's not even in control of any Black Eyed Kids things now. But yeah, Black Eyed Kids, as the lore goes, are typically two children, one slightly older than the other. So you might have a 12 and 10-year-old, or maybe a 16-year-old or 14-year-old, and they'll come knocking on your door in the middle of the night, seeking some sort of solace or needing some sort of help. So it might be stormy out and they want to come inside because it's cold, or they might be lost and they're knocking on the door to use your phone to call their parents or something. And they're not making eye contact during these first initial moments when they're interacting with the person. And eventually the person who is talking to the black-eyed children gets this inexplicable ominous feeling. They can't really explain why they're feeling that way. And then suddenly the kids, because the person is hesitant about letting them in, the kids get a little bit more aggressive verbally and then look at the person in their eyes, and people see that they have black eyes. Their entire eyes are black.
So
And,
no irises.
for the most part, the majority. That's right. It's the white parts too are black. And for the most part, the stories go that they close the door and don't let the kids in. And they'll attempt to keep knocking for a little while, but otherwise they just kind of go away. But there have been some stories where people have reportedly let them in to use a phone or whatever, and they have come down with some strange ailments. One person reported getting cancer and eventually passing away. But again, these are anecdotal stories that I've never seen proof of before, but I find them extremely fascinating.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds like no good deed goes unpunished. Let them in and you get sick. Hey, Mike, have you ever heard of black-eyed kids?
I have.
And you have any stories about black-eyed? I heard the phrase, but I never knew what it was or what was going on with the black-eyed kids.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what Nomar said, I've heard it through like a friend of a friend, or, remove stories. Nobody I personally know has had any encounter.
Yeah, me either.
That kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, that would do it. That would do it.
Oh yeah.
Someone banging on my door in the middle of the night.
That absolutely
Not
would do
cool. It's not cool. And then you see a kid? Nah.
it. Yeah, right.
No.
You have to be on Halloween.
But the guy that you were talking about, I do remember reading about him, and that he had stopped his car. And didn't the kid approach his car? And
that's right.
It really frightened him. He took off, but he can describe them. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna look him up. Brian Bethel, you said his name was.
Yeah, Brian Bethel's story, and it was featured in David Weatherly's book, Black-Eyed Children, I think it's called. And he also has like a revised version of it where he goes a bit more in depth, I think, with Brian.
Yes, I think they're a hybrid.
Yeah, must be.
Yeah, people have theories about that too. Are they alien related? Are they vampires? There's been a Men in Black connection that I think Nick Redfern has broached. But again, it's all theory. One thing about the paranormal, that I feel, it's only my opinion, but when somebody starts to tell you that they know what something is, that's when you got to stop listening to them. Because nobody has any answers, So
I totally agree. Anyone who thinks they have an exclusive understanding or whatever, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, Mike, while we still have you here, because we don't know when you're going to be abducted again by the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the KRI Center is no more, but Granite Skies is now in where?
Newmarket.
Newmarket. Okay, because we were there too. I just don't remember where the heck it was. Okay, so that is a support group. It's a talk group. Tell us what it is.
Yeah, before all this virus and the world went crazy, we were doing 4 meetings a month. Each one enough support, but everyone a different flavor. Like 1 week it would be strictly for experiencers. 1 week would just be kind of open discussion about anything UFO related. One's actually a meditation we do to try to make contact with extraterrestrials. And then we do a book group is also where we had the authors and stuff Skype.
Oh, okay.
Try to, and those are all the regular events. And then we try to, you know, bring in, you know, specialists or people who've had, you know, to give, you know, special talks and stuff like that when we can. But
Mike, is this once a month or once a week?
Typically it's once a week.
Once a week.
That's cool.
Do you have a certain night?
We're going with Friday. 3 of the events were on a Friday, and 1 of them was on a Wednesday right now. What's the current schedule?
Good.
So is that place going to open up anytime soon? Like you're going to do indoor stuff soon?
Open for July.
Okay. That's what I'm hearing.
The problem is, yeah, the problem is where I share the space with somebody else, a lot of their clientele is older, so she's being really, really careful about opening back up.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can understand that. Okay, so just to backtrack a little bit, you do a meditation so that people can try to connect with galactic friends. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Or the ships.
Yeah, we kind of do it full. One's, you know, more to try to contact them through the meditation. If you took them, you could use almost like a seed tool.
We're not getting it.
Wait. Okay, we're losing the feed a little bit, so I only got part of it. Try repeating.
So yeah, the meditation is twofold. One is to like make the connection through meditation, through your mind's eye. And the other one is if you took the meditation outside into the field to use it as a CE5 tool.
A what tool?
CE5, close contact, the
Oh.
5th kind, which is human-initiated contact.
Yeah.
Get with the program. She's like, get with the program. CE5, close encounter. CE5. All right, I'm going to look these babies up. You know, I have not had, and I'm not an experiencer.
Why do they call that?
Close encounter.
Close encounter.
Close.
What's
close.
the 5?
Of the 5th kind, right? Because the first
Right.
kind is, first is what? When you see something?
Yeah, so before you get to the close encounters, anything more than 500 feet away is not a close encounter. So to even start the close encounter chart, the object's got to be within 500 feet. It's got to be close. And that's basically just a, you know, a visual sighting at close range. Something in other
Sounds like Stephen
that
Hawking.
sort of thing.
Hey, we're kind of losing we're losing the video and I mean your screen is a little bit frozen, and that's okay as long as we could hear you. But sometimes we're losing the audio too. So we were talking to so encounter 1 is when you see something far away, correct?
No.
You gotta give it up.
It's got to be close. It's got to be closer than 500 feet.
500 feet.
Okay.
That's not that far.
I know that's not that far. So what is 2?
2 is when it leaves physical or trace evidence.
Oh, what's 3?
3 is when it interacts with you. Like if you shined a flashlight at it and it flashed back in sequence, that sort of thing.
And what's 4? 4 is silence.
5 is And 5 is human-initiated contact.
Okay, so we missed 4. What was 4? Say again.
That's where the abduction phenomena comes
abductions. Oh, okay. To me, that's the scariest thing. A lot of people feel that they're friendly and trying to help, but then we have people under hypnosis who have these very traumatic experiences. Why are you laughing? You don't think?
No, that's true.
Okay. All right. So we were talking to Nomar about how the two of you met and how you get interested in working together on this book. So, you know, Nomar, you posted a little snippet of the podcast that you did with Mike, and that was extremely cool. And then when I was getting like really interested in it, like cut off, I'm like, hey, Nomar, what is up with that?
Read the book.
Let's read the book, you know? So we want to know, Mike, so is this your story, Mike? And you sat down and you told it to Nomar? Nomar's laughing. Mike, are you still with us? Okay. So Nomar interviewed you, or did he ask you questions, or you volunteered for it? How do you do that? Kind of codify for us. Like, you know, you sit down, what's the first step, what's the second step? How do you do that?
So we said, you know.
Yeah, wait, Mike, hold that thought. We're gonna let Nomar answer because you keep breaking up on us. Okay, so Mr. Nomar, can you answer that question?
Yeah, Mike and I met on 2 different occasions to specifically talk about his encounters, and we had 2 long form interviews. And when I say long form, you know, there are 3-4 hour conversations. Yeah, and I recorded them both just because that helps with note taking. But I had a big laundry list of questions to
What kind
ask
of questions?
Mike.
What kind of questions do you
well, they were some of the questions that I would ask Mike were very specific to his encounters, and whatever his answer was would really kind of reveal the majority of his encounter. But sometimes it was just as simple as, how old were you when you had your first encounter? And that gets him thinking about, okay, was it 83? Was it 84? And I'm like, okay, well, where were you? And, you know, he's at his grandmother's house, and he goes into that whole long story, which you kind of hear on the podcast. But through our my question asking and his answering, we got to actually 1979, which was the year that he was born. And he ended up having this weird thing happen to him that his parents told him about much later.
As a baby? Wait.
Yeah, as a baby.
What happened as a baby to you, Mike? Can you hear us, Mike?
I can hear you, but it is breaking up. So it was just this weird thing where I turned blue out of the. For no apparent reason. Rushed me.
Turned blue out of the blue. Deb's making it funny.
So they rushed me to the emergency room.
Yeah.
The doctor told them, you know, you're just your new parents. You're overworried. There's nothing wrong with the kid, and they were like,
he's supposed to be blue.
Yeah, no
doctor. And that doctor told him I was severely dehydrated, but there was no reason for me to be severely dehydrated. I'd been eating, drinking, you know, everything was regular except for that happened. So, you know, it was kind of, is it extraterrestrial? Well, I can't say. Nobody can say, but
yeah, I was going to ask you
that. Back through the timeline, it's like, well, it's.
Yeah, that was, I actually have a cousin who was kind of born blue also. And it seems to be a medical thing. At least, like you said, they don't really associate it to anything extraterrestrial or paranormal. They're saying that that's a medical thing.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. You turn blue out of the blue, honey.
Yeah, and in my writing and research, I do want to try to represent a balance in the writing, so it's not so fanatical like, oh, you have to believe this is extraterrestrial. It's more like, here's the information and then you decide. So with Mike's blue baby piece that revealed itself, I made sure to do some research on some actual medical reasons on why that could happen. And there is something called blue baby syndrome that does happen in rare cases. And some of it has to do with the baby ingesting nitrates for formula. And the town's water supply of where, or of how that could happen to a baby in someone's family does play a part in it, or how they make the formula, or if the mother is drinking something and it's breast, it's breast milk. So there's a lot of kind of pieces that would have to come together for that to happen to Mike. And that syndrome.
So the likeliness of all those things happening is probably not a huge percentage. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's part of what I'm saying. But also, I don't know how educated his doctor was about that at the time. Blue baby syndrome, I believe, was discovered in 1945 or in the 40s anyway. I don't have the book in front of me with the info, but it was discovered so quite a while before Mike was born. So you would think the doctors would know about that. But none of the testing, which they actually didn't do any testing on him to see why that was happening. So it's kind of interesting. However, even though it may be rare for Mike to have actual blue baby syndrome, it's also rare that it could be extraterrestrial related, so you have these two big rarities, and then it's kind of up to you to decide which is more believable. And some people, especially skeptics, the easiest thing to believe is probably what's true, and that would be blue baby syndrome. But maybe somebody that's a little bit more open-minded, also given the context of Mike Stevens and his lifetime of encounters, okay, maybe blue baby syndrome in an alien or extraterrestrial sense is possible for Mike as well. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out to you guys, but it's also in the book.
That's very cool. So you said a lifetime of experiences. Can you tell us what some of them are? Mike, can you tell us? And hopefully we hear it all.
It's a sneak preview.
Preview.
Yeah, it's been a variety of different things. Like over the years.
We lost you again. Mike, where are you?
From your standard almost abduction type stuff to weird animals. Some have been like teaching moments where it felt more like schooling and almost family with them.
So we've missed part of that. So some, like, how old were you? Your first encounter happened when you were 4 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we're about, we don't know for sure, but I think I was about 3 to 4 years old.
And you were at your grandmother's house. At least that's what I remember from the podcast. Tell us, cousin?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Tell us. What was that? What happened?
So we were inside my grandmother's house. There was some type of family function going on or something. As far as I would say, like, aunt, uncle, cousins, that thing. So it was probably like a birthday party. And anyway, so grandmother's house was there, like 3-season sun porch right off the dining, overlooked the backyard. And when I cut through the dining room and
Nomar, are you familiar with this story? You must be. It's in the book, right?
He wrote it.
He wrote it. He wrote the book.
He lived it. He wrote it.
Yeah. So was this, Mike, we're going to kind of go to Nomar because your good-looking face is frozen again. So.
Yeah. So he was 3 or 4 years old. He's at his grandmother's function, whatever they were doing at the time, and he felt this pull to go outside. He didn't know why, but when he went outside, he was with his cousin at the time, and they ended up seeing this thing out in the woods, and it kind of ascended up over the treetops and then headed right towards the house. And as they're watching it, it's just like hovering like 20 feet above them. And he described it as the typical silver saucer shaped, and it had a window in it. And while they're staring at it, the light inside of it went on, and it was kind of like a yellowish amber soft light, like the interior of a car light going on. And he could see some shadowy movement inside it. He didn't really see any specific beings of any kind, but he saw that there was some shadowy movement going on in there. And then the next thing he knows, or both of them know, they've moved slightly in the driveway, and now the UFO is hovering over a telephone pole. And they have no recollection for what happened between where they were standing and the UFO was hovering to where they were then standing, and then the UFO was hovering over the telephone.
So they lost time?
Lost time.
That's right. They lost time, had no idea how much time they lost. And it wasn't until 25 years later where Mike sat down with a therapist who specialized in hypnotism, who put him under, and the rest of the story was revealed.
What about his Nomar? What about his cousin? Did she start to remember that incident too?
She, I believe, recalled moments of the incident, but I don't think recalled everything. And she actually, I think when Mike talked to her about it, she was actually recalling a different encounter where they saw these red lights in the woods, and they were kind of like dancing around in the sky. And they were around 10 years old when that was happening. And she wasn't really recalling too much what happened when they were around 3 or 4 years old.
So both of the encounters, they were together, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Oh.
And so, Mike, did you move again? Now you're outside?
Yeah. I'm trying to
Find a hot spot. So, all right. So, 10 years old. So, what happened? So, a lifetime of these, and when you start putting them all together, what does it add up to? What does it mean? What does it all mean?
Mike might have an answer for that, but to me, it raises way more questions than it does answers. Yeah, all of his encounters, in my opinion, hearing them from Mike itself, have all been really strange and not really connected in any way other than it's another experience that Mike is having. So obviously there's some connection. Now, through his hypnotherapy that he had, he did express that he felt that they were there for him for some reason. He doesn't know the answer to that reason.
A good reason, though, right? He wasn't afraid?
Yeah, old friend.
He wasn't afraid, right?
To my knowledge, no, he wasn't afraid.
Okay.
Were you afraid, Mike?
I bet.
In that moment, inside of it, dealing with them, no. I mean, it's always one of the weird things. The onset of the craft coming out terrified me more than like actually being with them. I think they have some calming effect, or I think part of the fear too is a physical reaction. I think whatever energy levels they vibrate at, it's not what our human bodies are used to. So I think there's not only an emotional response, but there's a physical response as well when these things. That's why, and you hear that even when people have encounters, they do that, initial like shock period, I guess you could say.
All right. So what do they want? Like, do they communicate with you? What are they saying to you? What do they want from you?
That I never really figured out. I suppose anything is possible. It all seems for a reason. Like there must be a purpose. It's way too orchestrated to not. But I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, my best guess it's more of a spiritual awakening type thing. They kind of want us to better ourselves, maybe. And a lot of experiencers also have they're basically a specialized version of light workers. They go out and they help other people, and I think that's part of it. It doesn't necessarily make it the only reason. I mean, my guess is as good as anybody else's.
Very cool, very cool. So why did they, how, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but are you like tagged? You know how we like tag whales in the ocean so that we can keep track of them? Are you tagged?
Sure.
How do they know where you are and
They
how to get a
do that.
hold of you? They tag us?
Yes.
Um,
There are nanites inside of us that they can focus on and fluid on.
yeah, I mean, I've got a little bump in my leg that could be something. It could be a piece of,
David's
it could be I mean, it could be anything. I've always been so rough and tumble. But I don't think the implants are actually how they track us. I think it's more of an energy signature, the same way you're just connected, same way like your grandmother would come back to you after she's passed or something. It's through something that science, can't quite put their finger on. The connection is there without the physical device.
Your grandmother's a relative, so she can find you. But so are you saying that they're relatives of yours? Maybe.
It's a possibility, yeah.
So you definitely bonded somehow, right? Because there's that connection there. Have you ever had that thing on your leg x-rayed? Have you ever seen what it is?
No, just because of the medical expenses and you're not really, unless you knew somebody, they're not gonna just
Give you an
pull
x-ray.
an X-ray for the heck of it, right?
Yeah, I have this bump. I think it would be cool to have it x-rayed and see what it actually is. So
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted to, I'd be up for it. I mean, but I'm open-minded. I'm open-minded to what it is. I'm not like, oh, it's definitely, it really could be a piece of glass from when I was 4 or something, or a rock, or who knows.
Interesting to know. Be interesting to know. Maybe you need to do something on Facebook or have a fund or something. So I don't know how much an X-ray costs, but we'll have to try and find out and get Mike's bump X-rayed. Sorry, Deb. Sorry, Mike. I couldn't resist. Okay, so now there's I only skimmed the book, and Deb skimmed the book as well. And in part of the book, there's a part there that says maybe you have offspring somewhere. Can you comment?
That was my question.
I know, but I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. So can you comment on that?
Yeah, it was one of those things. The idea is definitely out there in the literature. It's happened to, a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to think about it as far as my experiences were concerned. It was never something that really even crossed my mind. It's just the way it happened, or I kind of came to it could be a possibility. It was an encounter one night. It was basically just a light in the sky, and as soon as I realized it was there, it started dancing. So I flew down the stairs and back inside, and then as I was going up the other set of stairs on the other side, I just heard this little girl laughing, and I wasn't thinking, oh, this is alien children.
Yeah. Well, don't be cutting out now.
I'm like just ready to give up at this point. Like,
this is like suspense theater. You know what I mean?
I'm listening.
So that's just kind of in the back of.
Someone doesn't want us to know, Deb.
That's kind of your first thought, wasn't it? That it may be your own child.
What did I miss? You were outside and you heard a child laughing.
Going up some stairs.
Yeah. So, okay.
We're going to read the book.
I know. We're going to have to read the book.
I want one too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So he was going up the stairs. He heard a girl laughing. Yeah, I'm asking Nomar because
he wrote it.
That's Mike again. So what happened there, Nomar? How did Mike, what made you think that this could have been a child? Yeah.
Of yours.
Now I'm going to say, Nomar, take that one, please.
Okay. So the way I understand it is Mike had that experience outside of KRI in the early morning where he was seeing a light dancing around. And then when he came inside, he heard this little girl laughing. And so those two together, he wasn't sure if KRI was haunted. There was like a ghost of a little girl on top of just seeing a UFO. So it kind of freaked him out. And then it wasn't until a little later, I can't remember the time frame on how far this was, but he was having dinner with an ex-girlfriend, and he had gone outside to smoke a cigarette, and he was all of a sudden, flush with the information that he had some sort of extraterrestrial offspring. It kind of just all hit him at once, almost like it was like given to him all at once.
It was a download, like a download.
Yeah. Right. It was almost like it was this download. So after having those previous experiences with the lights dancing around and hearing the little girl laugh, we were wondering if maybe that was them trying to give him hints so he could figure it out for himself. But it really wasn't hitting the point, so they just had to give him this big full download so he understood that he did in fact have some offspring.
Well, it did make
It
did make him think about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They gave him little breadcrumbs.
But but what kind of breadcrumbs did you get, Mike? What made
the laughter.
The laughter means nothing. It could have been a haunting.
His mind, but his mind went.
What kind of download, Mike? What did you get?
For the download, it was just almost
like a knowing.
Intense. It just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I almost heard it in my head. Almost. It wasn't. It was almost a neutral voice. It wasn't male. It wasn't female. It wasn't robotic. It was just.
What was the voice saying to you? What made you connect it to an offspring?
What was it telling him?
Well, because the message was exactly that. It's you have a daughter out here.
Oh, yeah.
Here in the next year. It was really hard to misinterpret.
Yeah, I guess so.
It must have been on your mind too. And it's like the little breadcrumbs. I know, I've experienced this too. And then all of a sudden when the download comes, it's like, oh yeah, like an aha moment.
Finally things are explained.
You had been thinking about it anyway, once in a while. And then when it really comes in, it's like, okay.
So was this you must have had some kind of interaction, a sexual interaction, something when you're on the ship or something?
I don't think he's sexual. I think don't they do some sort of
But that's what I want to know. How did that happen?
She wants the dirty part.
No, I don't. I really want to know. So was there a physical interaction? Did they take samples? I don't know.
Oh, I'm glad to put that in.
I think so.
From various reports, it happened a little bit of both ways. In my personal experience, I think luckily, don't remember any of that.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, with most experiencers, people remember sections, a beginning, an end, a middle, but usually not the full story of a whole experience. And some stuff, if it's completely tragic, your mind will just block it out. Or if they don't want you to know, they'll block it out. Or however.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more questions than answers.
Stop you, yeah. How do they stop you from remembering? Do you know what I mean? And why? And so if they, all right. So if they blocked the experience, okay, but they wanted you to know that you had an offspring. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, have this experience, forget it. And then later they say to you, you have an offspring.
It's because he was thinking about it and he was like asking. So they told him.
Because he heard laughter?
Well, he must have been thinking about it. So he's like, and he was wondering about it. And they answered.
No. I wasn't thinking about it. I mean, I think when Nomar were talking about this, I told him I was like actually having a normal day for once. I wasn't doing any of this type of work. We're just sitting there watching a regular movie. It wasn't sci-fi. It wasn't horror. It wasn't UFO. And I went out, had my cigarette, looked in the sky because it's what I always do. There wasn't anything that caught my eye, or even a twinkle of light. And then just out of the blue, this information
comes to you.
Hard. I mean.
Yeah. See, that's what doesn't make any sense to me. All right, let's do this. Let's give them a mind wipe and then tell them about it. What's up with that? What kind of aliens are these people?
Come down.
No, I'm cool. I'm good. You
Don't call me.
Yeah. Don't call me.
Well,
Say it again,
Think
Mike.
not as Hollywood and stuff would. They're probably not as bad as we'd like to make them out. If they were, they wouldn't care. We.
With the technology that they have, and they do have a lot more than we can even imagine, they could have wiped us out a long time ago.
Well, see,
So,
I agree with that too. Just
in
the
my
fact that they can get
experiences,
here,
they're benevolent. Most of them.
most of them. See, Nomar, I told you you'd have a hard time getting a word in edgewise.
That's quite all right.
Well, see, I think I agree with you, but in order for them to have the technology to get here and kind of do the things that they do, they're probably more technologically advanced.
Probably
But
they are.
I don't see any reason to let someone have a child and then wipe their mind and then all of a sudden say, oh, you have a child. What's the purpose of that?
Ask them.
Hey, Mike, are you with us? Next time, your next encounter, ask them why they do those things. So whenever
Well, and
wait,
it seems to be the same answer for almost any type of experience. Whenever an experiencer tries to get to the bottom of it, they get told.
they get told what? Say it again.
Okay. Nomar, do you have any idea what he's trying to say?
I think he's trying to say that we don't know. And that would be my official answer.
My
I don't
official
know.
answer is we don't know why they do things the way they do. My
Yeah,
thought is that, they kind of let us know what we need to know. Too much knowledge can be an issue maybe, but I totally don't get that part, Let's do this, let's mind wipe them and then tell them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, none of it makes sense. I've talked to literally hundreds of witnesses, and sometimes there's some common threads throughout them and stuff. But to have an overall understanding of why any of this is happening, I have no idea, and none of it makes sense. I just find it fascinating, and I want to tell their story.
I think it's fascinating, but I'm also frustrated. But I do not want a visitation either. I'll just stay frustrated. But I find it frustrating that, we do all this questioning, we do all this work, we, have hypnosis, blah, blah, and we still don't have answers.
I do.
We have a lot of answers.
I do.
Yes. So.
Nomar, we got to talk.
So, Mike,
seriously.
So you've had experiences all through your life, right?
Yeah, correct.
Correct. So is any one more meaningful to you than the other?
Yes and no. They're all kind of in the same category because they're all just pieces of a puzzle, just snippets of a bigger picture. So they're all equal in that sense of trying to figure out what it means. But just my interpretation of different situations. So I'm there and less aggressive. So obviously those ones stick out in my mind as better experiences.
So you've had some experiences that were more aggressive?
Well, not necessarily physically aggressive, just in my understanding of them. If you don't know what's going on, it's usually more scary.
Sure. So you have these experiences and you've had them right along. What do you have a guess as to, first of all, why would they continually take the same person over and over again? It's like you're being studied somehow. So if you're being studied somehow, that kind of infers that they're doing something and they want to see how you react to it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What they're actually studying, I don't know. But yeah, it does, and it goes through lulls. It's not like I see a light in the sky every night. But, and they seem to be the ups and downs of it, there's definitely more activity in cycles of, you know, different ages as you start to make, you know, change, not necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for? Not kind of certain points in your life, different maturities and stuff. They seem to follow cycles with that.
Okay, so there are certain times, like maybe when you turn 20, when you turn 30, when you had your first love, when you met your first love. So those kinds of things. Do you find that you have
Yeah.
more experiences when you have things going on in your life that are emotional?
Michael, how do you sleep? You sleep very, very deeply?
Well, you didn't answer
What?
my question yet.
I thought he was done.
Now he's like, who do I talk to?
Yeah, now I'm like, whose question do I answer?
Sorry.
No, when I sleep very deeply, but I usually don't sleep all that long or much.
So okay, so you
All
don't
that
sleep.
long or much?
You don't sleep a lot of hours. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah, I generally, I mean, every once in a while I'll crash out for quite a few, but I generally get like 5 hours of sleep a night.
Oh, so much.
I would be exhausted. So have you had more than one hypnosis session or just the one?
Just the one. You know, I'm sure there's more answers I could dig out of my head, but I don't know that it's really helpful at this point. I know enough to know something's happening.
Yeah.
What it is, I don't know that hypnosis is gonna break it open or not. It might, you know, it might put more memories in my head that I don't really need or want there too. So
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Sometimes, you know, don't ask what you don't want to know.
Well,
either,
it might answer some of your questions, though. Put pieces of that puzzle together.
Well, like you said, some of them he doesn't want to know.
Well, he's down here. Learn what you can.
I see. So the book is already out. Yes? Yes, yes?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Yes.
The book comes out August 25th officially.
Oh,
We do have a fundraiser going so people can donate to help us get it published. This is the first time I'm putting out a book without a publisher.
okay.
And I had walked away from a previous publisher. Not that they were bad people or anything, but
Just didn't
I
fit.
wasn't interested in the deal that they were offering, and thought I could not have to compromise my writing in order to put it out. So we are independently putting this together, and so we need to raise some funds to get the book off the ground. Yeah.
And again, the goal is to kind of get the story out so that people who may be having similar situations can kind of come forth, yes, and feel comfortable about talking about their experience.
Come forth is almost like icing on the cake. At the very least, for me, I want somebody to read it and maybe relate to it. This book actually turned into something much more than Mike and I thought it would. It actually talks about what Mike has gone through throughout his life hasn't been positive, and it's really hurt him mentally. And he suffered from a lot of trauma from it. And it's not any different really from any other PTSD sort of trauma or survivors of abuse, you know, things like that. And it actually made me look inside myself and what I struggle with my own mental health. Because I'm not 100% mentally healthy. I've been medically diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And some of the thoughts that I have, Mike has had as well. And all of that comes out into the book. And through our long form discussions, and then it seems like hundreds of different little conversations that we've had, either over the phone or through Facebook or in person, we've really kind of got this deep bond or something. This weird thing developed where I'm like, okay, if Mike is going to be as naked and as raw as possible and telling the entirety of his story, not just the encounters, which are fascinating,
Yeah.
but also how it affected him mentally, personally, then I should be willing to share things about my life as well. My life doesn't overshadow his story at all. It's just I throw some things kind of interjecting or maybe supporting that trauma is a thing that happens and it's survivable. Mostly in the form of coping, because you're never over it, in my opinion. But you can help treat yourself. Sometimes that's self-medication, which is not typically healthy, but sometimes it can be. And then also getting professional help, and the second half of the book kind of goes into some of that stuff. Again, it doesn't overshadow it, but it's definitely a part of it because it's a part of his story and it's part of my story.
So Mike, can you hear? Okay, he's moving. Yeah. His picture's moving. Okay. So when you're talking about these experiences, for the most part, they don't sound very alarming, or maybe you're just very calm the way that you say it. So this whole, stressed out PTSD type thing, how do you deal with it? Like I know Nomar saying sometimes professional help, but do you meditate on a daily basis? Both of you meditate? How do you deal with the day-to-day stuff?
It depends on the days. Most days I've gotten to a spot where I've accepted it. Like you said, it's coping. You're never really over it, but yeah. I've accepted it, and that's a big part of it for me. And just, it depends on the days. I still have really bad days with it. The trauma, and I can't run around looking like a screaming lunatic and making it all about me with the, if I'm going to help anybody else. So that's why I try to be very calm when I talk about it.
Wow.
And, everybody always asks me. So for me, it's like, I got to tell this story for the 300th time.
I know.
That helps with the keeping it calm.
Telling it 300 times keeps it calm. That would frustrate the crap all out of me.
Oh, it does. To me, I feel like it's like, I've said this way too much, but everybody always wants to hear it.
Now you can just, Mike, give them the book.
Say, there you go.
This is my life. Read the book.
This is my life. Okay. So are there any times when you actually, now I know you said you did a meditation with folks at your place to actually make a connection with galactic beings. Do you ever do that yourself? Do you try to connect? Do you try to talk to them and say, hey, leave me alone, or why are we doing this? Do you ever do anything like that?
Yeah, but usually more out of frustration, more like something will catch me off guard, or, like I'll have a good spell where nothing happens, and all of a sudden, like I'll see something in the sky, and, sometimes I'm like, it's okay, it's just a light, whatever. And some days it just shakes me to the core,
Yeah.
So, and that's usually when I'll reach out and be like, it's, and half the time it's not even, it's such a struggle when it happens, hits you like that. It's like, I just want to be normal, like this grasp of normality that, I've never had. But it's the understanding. It's not having those answers. I think sometimes it frustrates it.
Yeah.
Because something's happening, but.
Yeah. But you don't know why,
Right.
What's normal anymore?
I know.
Yeah, nothing now, but.
No, the only button on a washing machine, or the only set on the washing machine.
So why do you keep looking up? I would be like, I don't want to see it. So you look up. If you can't see anything unless you look up. When you look up and you see something.
It's more of a.
You look up, you see something. Do you get nervous that there's going to be an encounter?
Not generally. Look up is kind of a defense mechanism. That's part of my everyday anxiety of just, I'm always, people go, oh, you're really observant. It's not so much that I'm observant, it's I'm always scanning my area. I always need to know what's behind me, in front of me, what's around me. Notice small things to look for changes, to see, what's, if anything's off, or, that sort of thing, which is, again, mentally exhausting.
Yeah.
That's PTSD.
it's
right? That's
yeah,
PTSD. Yeah,
part of it. Yeah, yeah. The
they do.
only real difference between that and what experiencers go through is a lot of times experiencers don't know the moment that triggered it, whereas with PTSD,
You do.
the event that
True.
that's when they would never be the same.
Right. Huh. Well, it's all really, really interesting. And thank you. Thank you for sharing your story for the 3,000th time, I'm sure. But it's something that, the interest is not going to go away because more and more people are having experiences, either physically or intuitively. And so hearing from someone who actually goes through it actually helps us to understand, and a good reason to have books like this and so on and so forth. And Mike, when when I was introducing you and stuff, I was talking about the first time that I had met you, and I asked you, as an experiencer, you're trying to help other people. How do you know if the person you're talking to actually had an experience? And I don't know if you remember what you said to me, but you said it doesn't matter. This person is going through this traumatic event or whatever it is, it's influencing their life, and we got to help. So it's people, not proof. Okay, so that, I thought that was an amazing, amazing thing, and shows what kind of person that you are. So, I always like to think that things happen for a reason. So, is that reason a higher reason? Why are you going through this and someone else doesn't? Are you chosen? Are you, because you can talk about it? I mean, when you talk, you're very peaceful, which I know is different than what's going on the inside, but that's what gives people they want to listen to you. You are calming. You are talking about something that's abnormal or paranormal or whatever, but you're very calm, very peaceful about it. So, it really does help people. So is that why you talk about it? You're doing it to help other people? Question.
All that, yes.
All that, just a yeah.
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 Yeah, no, it is.
But
I don't like the word chosen. Like, it depends on how you use it. Some people are like, oh, I'm chosen, I'm special. It's like,
yeah.
I think we were chosen because we can handle it. Something, even though we struggle with it, we can handle it. We are making a difference. We are getting paths. If somebody couldn't handle it, they wouldn't be able to help anybody else. They wouldn't be able to spread the word. They so. So yeah, part of it is, I don't think it was a random thing. It was chosen for something,
Right.
but is it because of me or just because it's following a bloodline? I don't know.
That's interesting. That's very interesting to me, because it does seem, I mean, at least, I've read stories that people in the same families seem to be taken or abducted or whatever. So it's not like
Have experiences.
they have experiences,
Yeah.
and they're usually in the same families. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true in a lot of cases. I think it's probably truer in most cases. It's just a lot of people don't talk about it. So
Yeah.
you can't make the connection if people aren't willing to talk about it.
That's true. This is true. Okay. So the two of you met, you created this this story, and it's very informative, really, really helps people. So we want to say thank you for coming and talking to us, and again, probably for the zillionth time. So if people want to know more about you, Nomar, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about you and what you do?
Sure. I can be reached at Nomar Slevik Author on Facebook.
I spell Slevik, Slevik. Yeah.
That's right. Slevik.
All right.
And also, to get a full scope of all of my work and have direct links to them, you can go to allmylinks.com/Slevik.
All my links. All my links /
allmylinks.com/Slevik.
Oh, okay. That's easy. Okay. All right. Mr. Mike, if people want to know more about you and ask you 3,000 more questions, how can they get a hold of you?
Right now, probably just look up Granite Sky on Facebook. I've got the website shut down right now because of all this virus stuff, and I'm too cheap to pay for the hosting when,
Yeah,
I
it's not
can't do anything with
inexpensive.
it.
You're right.
But that'll be granitesky.org when that's back up.
Very cool. Very cool. So one more final question. Where do you guys see yourself in 5 years? What will you be doing 5 years from now? Nomar's like, yeah, right. Ask me that.
Hopefully, I will keep telling people stories, and I want to tell all sorts of stories. With everything that's going on in the world right now, it makes me sad and it makes me angry, and I think it's important that people who follow my work know what side I fall on, and that's with Black Lives Matter, and that's with protecting people that are having a hard time right now. And if sharing their stories is something that I can do to help, then I do want to do that. So all of my work is not regulated down just to the paranormal, or just to extraterrestrials.
Excellent.
If somebody needs to tell their story, I'm going to seek that out and tell their story. So that's where I hope to be in
So
5 years.
what impact do you want to make on the world with that?
I guess to help
Get it out there.
help the broader sense, or the broader populace, I guess, to understand where people are coming from, because the world right now is lacking a lot of empathy, it's lacking a lot of kindness, it's lacking a lot of understanding, in my opinion. And I think the more stories that can be told from at least the side that I'm on, and the stories that I want to tell, I'm hoping to convey their stories in a way it helps somebody else understand it, and hopefully have that same kind of empathy that I do for them, and that those people deserve.
That's nice. Very cool. Same thing, Mr. Mike. Where are you going to be in 5 years, and what impact do you want to make on the world?
Probably be pretty much in the same boat. Still doing, like you said, there's no shortage of people who have had experiences that come out, and
There'll probably be more.
So we're kind of losing
starting
speed.
forward. So,
Okay, so
yeah, that is just, maybe the ways of how you can help people will change, but still probably just helping people.
excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you both very, very much. Do you have any more comments, questions?
No,
Unbelievable. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you both later. Mucho love.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Back
guys.
at you.
Let me see if I can find the right
Bye.
button.